according to them, by the way, according to this group, they're saying Bitcoin is now in a bear market because of what? Because of the timing cycles. Because they're saying the bull cycle has finished.
And at the moment, technically, Bitcoin is still very much in a bull market. Cycles will only last so long, and there has to be
Yeah.
changes made to them. They're not set in stone. When I hear, like you've just said, people saying, oh, it's the end of a such and such a cycle, there's no guarantees of anything.
If Bitcoin was to drop below that yellow line, then I may have to change my mind.
Could it be that Bitcoin is leading the stock market?
I looked at every top on the price of Bitcoin to 2011, and I found this. All right, guys, hello and welcome. We're honored to have my good friend and trader Charlie Burton of charlieburtontrading.com, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Right now, there seems to be a split in the Bitcoin community. I've seen a lot of people say that Bitcoin is topped. Again, in some people's opinion, not my opinion, but they're saying that Bitcoin is topped and we're falling into a bear market. Are they correct? Or is it that Bitcoin is about to potentially bottom? So which scenario is correct? Has Bitcoin topped and in a bear market at the moment? Or is it the opposite? Are we about to bottom in this drop and then move back into an uptrend continuation? Which one is more likely? We'll talk about it with Charlie here. Thanks so much, guys. Join us. Okay, welcome back. As you can see, I have the Christmas tree lights here next to me, a fire. And I think, Charlie, you said that your wife just recently took out the decorations
Bar
for Christmas.
humbug. Yes.
Oh,
No, actually, we would have had ours up by now, but I've been away on business trips out in the Middle
yeah.
East and far extremes of Europe as well. So I've been busy. So
By the way, guys, before we start, just a couple of mention two important things. Firstly, if you'd like to become a member, a premium member of Leading Trader, go to this particular offer you're seeing here in this link. That should give you a special Christmas offer we have here to become a member. And by the way, guys, if you haven't yet signed up for the course, the joint course that Charlie and I are doing in January, and that's the Pro Trading Workshop, make sure you do so. But I want to thank all of you who have already joined this class. So many of you already joined and signed up. Thank you very much indeed. We appreciate it. But if you have not yet taken advantage of this discount and the special offer for the Pro Trading Workshop in January with me and Charlie, go ahead and do so. The full details as to what's involved is on the actual page. We'll talk about it more at the end of the video. So, Charlie, in your view, it seems really listening to from the comments that I've been reading overall on social media, even the interviews that I've done recently as well, what's happening is that sentiment, again, the general view that people have, in other words, the general view that people in the Bitcoin community, in the crypto community have, has turned very sour and negative towards crypto and towards Bitcoin in general, which is astonishing when you think about it. Only a month ago, just in October, when Bitcoin reached its all-time high near 126K, people back then, I remember back in early October, they were saying, and I remember reading the comments, that Bitcoin cannot possibly drop because the fundamentals are so strong. Now that Bitcoin has dropped by nearly 35% from its high to its low. Now, those very same people who are saying that Bitcoin cannot possibly go down and drop because of so-called fundamentals, now they're saying, I mean, this is hilarious. They're saying that Bitcoin cannot go back up again into a bull market. They're saying Bitcoin is now in a bear market because of what? Because of the timing cycles. Because they're saying the bull cycle has finished, the 4-year bull cycle is finished, according to them, and that we're now in a bearish cycle, which is going to last all the way to next year. According to them, by the way, according to this group, they're saying that Bitcoin has fallen into a bear cycle until the end of next year, October 2026. I should say this is not my view. I do not share this bearish view. I'll explain to you why. But I just find it hilarious and also ridiculous that people who say Bitcoin cannot drop because of fundamentals, now they're all about cycles, timing cycles. I mean, I want to ask those people right now who are watching this video, those fundamentalists, why do you think that Bitcoin fundamentals care about timing cycles? Seriously, what do fundamentals care about cycles? Don't get me wrong here. I do look at timing cycles. I'm not saying they're not important, but timing cycles must be combined with price action. People who watch my videos know that I always mention these three words: price über alles, German for price above everything, price above all. You must look at the price action first. It's not time above everything. It's a mistaken view to privilege time, the time axis, over the price axis. Again, don't get me wrong here. I do think time analysis and time cycles are important. I do look at them, but you always want to confirm them You always want to combine them with what's happening on the chart, on the price action. Where is your support? Where is your resistance? Where are the key levels? What's the structure on the price chart? Unfortunately, people out there in the Bitcoin community, and Charlie, I mean, I've been reading these comments, a lot of the people in the Bitcoin community, I would say about 60%, maybe more, they're saying, no, Bitcoin's finished. What they're saying is that Bitcoin is now in a bear market, according to them, and the price is not going to go back into an uptrend because of this timing cycle. I'm going to show some charts, which, by the way, throw some water, cold water on this entire idea.
I think, as far as what you just said, as far as sentiment is concerned,
Mm.
when you have a large majority of people who turn very bearish or very bullish, then
Yeah.
usually it's a good sign that a market, when a market has fallen by 35% and a large majority are bearish, then more often than not, that market is due at the very least, a pretty decent bounce.
Yeah.
So, and at the moment, technically, Bitcoin is still very much in a bull market. I
Yeah.
know it's 35% off its highs. It's hard to, but
Mm.
as far as the charts are concerned, we still haven't technically broken down through those major lows that you've got on your chart there. So,
Mm. Mm.
from a sentiment perspective, then that is always a warning sign to us, where if you're seeing that in a particular asset class.
Yeah, absolutely 100% agree with you. I remember I posted a video of mine recently on YouTube and all that on social media. And the comments I was reading, some of the comments, by the way, I took screenshots of the comments. The comments were Bitcoin's finished, it's over, it's going to go to zero, it's going to go to 10K. There were people projecting 10K, 16K, usually those kinds of very bearish negative comments, which seem to be posted by people who have no idea what they're talking about. That usually signals that Bitcoin is potentially reaching a low or getting about to potentially bottom or capitulation. It doesn't mean Bitcoin is definitely bottom, but it does mean we're potentially getting near a bottom or bottoming process.
Yeah, I'm not really looking in the
Mm.
crypto worlds as much,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's very common across
Mm.
all asset classes. When you start seeing those sorts of comments, then
Yeah.
you've got to start looking the other way.
Yeah.
Interestingly, just coming back to what you just said about
Mm.
cycles as well,
Yeah.
there's prominent crypto analysts who are known globally
Yeah.
who have these sort of cycles, and people say, "Oh, that's the end of a 4 year cycle," or that, or the, and we've seen these prominent
Mm.
analysts have to adjust their
Yeah.
cycles over
Mm.
the recent years anyway, because cycles will only last so long, and there has to be
Yeah.
changes made to them. They're not set in stone.
Absolutely.
And so they are more fluid than that. And so when I hear, like you've just said, people saying, "Oh, it's the end of a such and such a cycle," there's no guarantees of anything. But again, that sort of molds in quite nicely into what you're saying there from a sentiment perspective. When people are getting uber bearish, it's a bit of a warning sign of at least a half decent bounce coming.
Yeah. I agree with you about that. First of all, let's go on to this particular chart. Bitcoin dropped to this trend line support, hasn't taken out that low of the spring lows, which is the yellow line, 74,000, which is good. I'm glad it hasn't taken that level out. My view is very simple. Bitcoin's still in an uptrend as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm conceding, we're still above the low of the spring. We're still above that trend line support for now. For now. So there's still potential for Bitcoin to continue the uptrend. Potential. I want to see some confirmation. We need to break resistance. So here's the bottom line. As long as Bitcoin stays above the spring low of 74,440, given the fact that we've dropped to this supporting trend line with oversold conditions on the RSI, the weekly RSI there, 7 period setting, I think that's what we're looking at. I think there's still potential for a very strong bounce, even if Bitcoin makes a slight lower low. I think that we're in a bottoming process. Okay. I'm not saying Bitcoin has definitely bottomed. We're looking at probabilities here, but I think we're in a bottoming process. I think we're close to capitulation. Even if Bitcoin makes a slight lower low, I still think we're close to a bottom as long as we stay above that yellow line, 74,440, the spring lows. If Bitcoin, again, it's an if, it's a big if Bitcoin was to drop below that yellow line, that 74,440 level, then I may have to change my mind. I may have to adopt a less bullish view. And as long as that level holds, there's still potential for Bitcoin to continue the uptrend. We'll see what Bitcoin does in the next few weeks. And Charlie, this I want to get your views on this. I looked at every top on the price of Bitcoin to 2011, And I found this, that indicator at the bottom, so it looks at acceleration extremes. Essentially, the red or purple acceleration extremes are the ones that matter the most. The previous tops on Bitcoin from 2011, 2014, 2018, 2021, all the previous ones were accompanied by acceleration extremes. In other words, a blow off top when price moves too far too fast. The only time when we didn't get that signal was this year in 2025. So we did not get a blow off top, as far as I can see. Because if we did, if we got a blow off top, I would have seen one of those red signals. If Bitcoin is topped, which I don't believe, then that would make 2025 the only period, the only time when the Bitcoin is topped without a blow off top and without a red acceleration extreme. The previous ones all had one. Now, people might say, well, maybe this time is different. Yes, true. And again, we're dealing with probabilities here. Maybe this is just one of those occasions when Bitcoin tops without a red acceleration extreme or a blow off top. But personally, I'm going to go with the higher probability. I'm going with the higher odds that I don't think Bitcoin is topped. The fact that we did not get a blow off top or acceleration extreme indicates that it's a low probability that Bitcoin is topped. So I actually still hold the view that Bitcoin has not topped and that we're not in a bear market. And it's not being confirmed. I don't think a bear market has been confirmed as yet. It's too soon.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting chart. I think that one of the things that has been atypical of the likes of Bitcoin over its life cycle is that we've had faster accelerating bull markets in its earlier cycles. So we've seen far greater percentage increases in the earlier path of its life in bull markets, and gradually every bull market we are seeing, the market moves in a slightly lower percentage gain. So still very high, but they're not running in thousands of percent gains like we did in the earlier cycles, just
Yeah.
because it's becoming a more mature market. It's much harder for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes from 50,000 to 100,000, that's still a great
Mm,
100% gain. But when it went from 5 to 50, well,
mm,
you got 1,000% gain. So that's just the natural path of any market. So it may take longer to
mm,
reach those higher percentage gains in the future, and we may not quite see the acceleration that we saw in
mm,
previous cycles anyway, just because of it was a lot easier
mm.
for a market years ago to go and
Yeah.
grow thousands of percents in a relatively short period of
Yeah.
time than it is now. It's a much more mature market now.
I agree with you. I mean, yeah, it could be that this year or this period, if Bitcoin is stopped, it could be that this is one of those times when we don't get a blow off top or acceleration extreme. Possibly, yeah. So I'm remaining open to that possibility. If we look at the previous times Bitcoin has fallen into a bear market, you'll see something interesting. You'll see that when Bitcoin falls below its 21 weekly moving average here, as in the year 2021, 2022, it had a bounce back. Notice it bounced back to the 21 weekly moving average, and then it got rejected. In other words, it dropped down. So it bounced back to the 21 weekly moving average, got rejected, and then it dropped. Okay. And actually, we don't even need to see a drop like that. What I'm trying to point out here is this. Here's my point. My point is we got to bounce back to the 21 weekly moving average, and it got rejected. It failed to get above it and even stay above it. And then we get a red bar. Okay. This rejection, failure at the 21 weekly moving average was a sign we could be entering a bear market. Okay. Happened again here. You can see it bounced back to the 21 weekly moving average here, the blue line, got rejected again, fell below it, sign we're entering a bear market. Okay. And by the way, I want to show this. Notice the structure of the rally on both occasions was corrective, three waves. And that's what I'm encouraging people to wait for. Okay. It's too early right now. And if we just take a look here, so if you just take a look at the chart of Bitcoin, it's too early at this moment to call a bear market. Look at the distance between the price and the 21 weekly moving average. It's quite a big distance right now. And I think in the next several weeks, probably by the end of the year, maybe going to next year, January, I think we're going to see Bitcoin eventually catching up, moving back, in other words, rallying back to the 21 weekly moving average, the blue line there on the right-hand side of the chart. By the way, that moving average is going to be adapting, it's dynamic, it's moving. So it's not going to stay exactly the same level. And then we'll see what kind of structure we get. Charlie, what's your point? What's your view on this?
I think I'll just add
Yeah,
a bear case just for the bears,
yeah,
okay?
sure.
Just because it's always good for to present both cases.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
For the bears, what's interesting is that Bitcoin actually led the decline in the stock market. I know the decline in the stock market only lasted what 3 weeks. It was a
yeah,
very shallow pullback in relative terms. But could it be that Bitcoin is leading the stock market? The stock market may well go up to new highs, but for the bears that Bitcoin doesn't. It gets back to 100,000 or so, sucks a load of new entrants into the market because everyone sees, oh, Bitcoin's back above 100,000. They all pile in just
yeah,
as actually it starts to roll back over again. So we've gone from saturation as far as bearishness is concerned just in the past week or two, like you said, with regards to sentiment. Sentiment's got a bit stretched. We get a rally, but the rally ends up fizzling out. Some point, as you say, into 26, back up to your weekly 20, that sort of zone, back up north of 100,000. That attracts a load of new investors again, or people say, oh, right, I better get back in. It's back
yeah,
above
yeah, yeah, yeah,
100,000 just as it rolls over. And that's when maybe the stock market then starts to roll over, having got to
yeah,
7,000 or whatever in the meantime. I think it's a fascinating story because they've
yeah,
definitely decoupled a little bit at the
yeah. That's
moment.
true. Yeah,
Bitcoin has gone a lot lower in relative terms than the minor
yeah.
pullback that the stock markets have had. So I think it's a fascinating backdrop
I
right
agree with you.
now.
This has puzzled me as well. I'm glad you brought it up because there has been this decoupling between Bitcoin and stock market. Stock markets remain stronger
Mm,
relative to Bitcoin.
mhm.
Bitcoin is seeing still weakness. So the question is, who is leading who?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I really don't know. I I'm still in favor of the stock market being the leader, but I could be wrong. Maybe none of them. But if the stock market is lagging behind Bitcoin, then the stock market has to prove that by dropping below
Yes.
its recent low. Again, I still see Bitcoin in a bullish picture. Again, as I mentioned before, let me just repeat this point. If Bitcoin wants to prove to us that it's in a bear market, either it has to take out this low made in the spring of this year, 74,440. That would make me change my mind and become more bearish if it took out that low. Or if the next rally back to resistance fails, the next rally back to the 21 weekly moving average. If that fails, if it fails to gather momentum above it, or if it's corrective in structure, then no. That would probably be a bad sign for Bitcoin as well. All right, guys, before we finish this video, just to quickly mention two things. Firstly, if you're not a member, you can become a member in the special offer we have there. It's a Christmas offer we have there for you guys. And also, if very important, guys, take advantage of the offer we have to join me and Charlie in the January course. We're doing an online course. So this is going to be covering a lot of aspects of trading and technical analysis. Go to this link you're seeing here, protradingworkshop.com. And we'll put the link for you guys in the description. Go ahead and check it out. And again, it's only for a limited time, right, Charlie? So
Yeah, just in December, we just reopened it because there's such a demand that people are saying, oh, please, can you not hold it a little bit longer because of their personal situations? So we've reopened the offer. It's
sure.
the first time, do you know, Alessio, that you and I have actually done something like
Yeah,
this together?
I agree with you.
Yeah, so it's going to be quite
Yeah, it's
exciting.
gonna be good. Yeah,
Mm.
I look forward to seeing you guys. By the way, another special thank you to those of you who have already signed up. Okay, thanks very much, Charlie. Much appreciated.